Hey, lovely people. This is a show about interesting people I bump into who share intimate stories about their lives and their general views about life. I actually believe we all have a story to tell and we each can learn from each other. And I hope the show does that for you. My name is Notom Chali and it's an absolute pleasure to meet you. Welcome. This week I bumped into Sikelela Finini, otherwise known as Siks. Okay, I just made that up. I don't know why I'm lying. Wow. Sikelela has worked at 3 multinationals such as SAB, Pepsico, and Unilever. And in this deep, often emotional, with lots of humor kind of episode, he shares his insights on being gay in South Africa and the corporate workspace.
I'd walk up the street and people would question me, would question my existence. And I couldn't put my finger on it, I couldn't put my finger on why was I alive if then I was not meant to, because guys in the hood will be very brutal to say.
He also tells us how you can bring your authentic self in every space.
And I was hired on the basis of being Sikelela. So very important for me in any environment, I don't leave my full self out. Whether I flick my non-existent hair in a meeting, or I roll my eyes back, or I speak with such rapport, whatever. I want to come into a room and be fully myself. And that's very important in any environment that I go into.
And in true I bumped into style, we go deep. We talk death and why we're so afraid of it.
It's scary. I'll tell you, my mom got sick 2 years ago. And like I said to you, it's not something we speak about quite often. And when I saw her on her supposed deathbed, she's still alive to this day.
So, yeah, Sikelela, let's, without further ado, let us just begin.
Sikelela.
Sikelela was Sikelela.
Why do people call me Sikelele?
Sikelela.
And you guys are so insistent.
So, Sikelela.
Yeah, and you've known me for ages.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. And I know this is something we've been wanting to do for a while. Yeah, so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I haven't obviously shown you the questions, and I know you've listened to some of the other podcast episodes. They're not going to be the same as those, so you can't really prepare your answers.
Yeah.
I want them to be as authentic as they can be. But without further ado, thank you again for being on the show.
Cool.
And allowing me into your beautiful home. We did watch some Oprah as well before. Just to bring in the spirit,
That's my second mama.
Okay, so cool. Sikelela, so for those people that don't know you, can you briefly introduce yourself? Give me a background about yourself. However, how I'd like you to do this is to speak in third person. And what I mean by that is, how would your mother introduce you?
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. I had a prepared response to this, but let's think off the mark. So, Sikelela is Nomvano Finini's son, and a gentleman by the name of Mapelo. My mom, so I grew up in Butterworth, born in 1987. So I'm in my 30s. I never really say the age, but you'll do the math. So I'm in my 30s, grew up in a small town in Butterworth, in the Eastern Cape. And he's basically, so in third person, right? He's basically I'm a lover of life, but very curious.
Okay.
And that's me. I've been curious all my life. And interrogate life quite intrinsically.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else that
What
your
more?
mother would say, even though you didn't speak in third person, but that's
My
fine?
mom would say I'm a bully. So we've gone into we've gone into there's an interesting concept I've learned of recently. It's mothering kids when they're toddlers and mothering kids when they're adults.
Okay.
And I think me and my mom's relationship has transitioned from her mothering me as a kid to her mothering me as a 30-year-old. And I think as a young kid, she always says I was very, as a reflective kid, I wrote a lot and I had dreams for my life. And there's one extract I think my mom found when I left home for varsity 17 years ago, which was called, what was it called again? I think it was called, it was, you know, back in the days when we had to write comprehensions or whatever we had to write in primary. It was called, I think it was something about the future, and I wrote it so prescriptively in terms of how I wanted my life to turn out. And my mom to this day still reminds me about that. She always makes me read it when I go home sometimes. She's like, remember you wrote this, and some of the things you wrote there, if almost not all, have come true actually. So I was a true visionary from a young age, but also understood the benefit of hard work. And yeah, I'll try to remember.
What's not that you have to recite the entire script, you know, but what's the one takeaway? Maybe the one big idea that was there?
I feel like calling her because oh, I remember it. It was called Life Wasn't Meant to Be Easy. It was...
As a grade 8, you're writing...
I was writing something along those lines. It was something called Life Wasn't Meant to Be Easy. And I was always, so I think I always say this. I said Oprah's my second mom, with my primary mom, Nomvano, that I've mentioned, being my mother. But I think I was raised in such a truly reflective space, but I was very cognizant of that as well, growing up, that I had to reflect on anything that came about in my life. And I think I started doing that from a young age. So I wrote that life wasn't meant to be easy. And to some form or degree, I think that has been my mom's reference point as much as she's an adult. But she always, whenever I hit a stumbling block or something happens in my life, whenever something's happening within our family, actually, she'll always say, remember what you wrote when you were... I think she found it under my bed. You know when kids hide stuff in between the mattress?
There's many things that are hidden there, yeah.
Because black kids don't have their own rooms. So we shared a room with my brother, and I think I had, hidden this in between the mattress and the base.
Sure.
And I think when I moved out of home, she found it. Thank God she didn't find porn there or
Where was that hidden, by the way?
Wow. We'll get to that later. There were video cassettes back in the day.
Okay, yeah.
So I remember we used to borrow each other's neighbors, but that's a story for another day.
How was the childhood? Because I'm assuming right now that it affected and led up to you writing Life Is Not Going to Be Difficult, right?
It wasn't meant to be easy.
Life was not meant to be easy.
Yeah.
So, we spoke before about this to say, look, I don't want to focus on your sexuality.
Yeah.
But I know you're a very proud gay man.
Yeah.
How, just briefly touch on that in terms of the childhood. How was that? Did you feel different to other kids? Did you feel the same as them? Because that came from somewhere. Cool. Yeah.
I didn't think we'd move into this quite quickly, but here we are. Great question, Mnoto, and I think it's fully loaded, and I think it's you listening to what I have to say in the beginning, which I think you have. 13 for me. So one, the script I wrote was a topic we had been given at school by an English teacher, right? But I wrote it so well and it did so well, and my mom then got hold of it and read it and stuff, And I think I had gone introspectively about things. So I've got visual cues here, which I told you about, and there are 3 pinnacle ages for my life currently at the age of 31 that have really ultimately made me who I am, or have helped me transition into who I am. So 13 was one of those ages, 25 and then 30. I'll share with you in retrospect and we can build onto it. So 13, was it was the first time I realized I was different. And being different was I was not like other boys, and the world was trying to inform themselves, was trying to inform me of who I was. And I quickly got very uncomfortable with that, growing up watching Oprah every day at 4 o'clock, not going to extramural activities like other boys, rushing home to come watch Oprah with my mom actually was a favorite pastime every day after school. And for me, 4 o'clock was such a pivotal moment because it put me into, it allowed me to travel in my mind.
Sure.
And you know how big I am on traveling.
Yeah.
So it allowed me to travel into the United States, to wherever Oprah was or whatever. Or wherever TV took me to. So I always say TV has always been such an important part of my life in terms of traveling and not using my current situation as a determinant of where I'm going. So 13 was a very big age for me where, first of all, you're hitting puberty. You don't understand what's going on with your body. You also look like a girl sometimes. You're shaped like a girl. And some people, before I got this beard, thought I was a girl. So in my childhood, I'd get guys, older guys, sort of trying to come on to me. And for me, I was so uncomfortable. I remember I used to run home to my mom and be like in the Tuni, where I've been sent to a shop up the road, Kwastima or Kwankukwana, in the township that we come from, Cuba. And I've been sent up the road to go buy bread or sausage or whatever young kids get sent to do. And on my merry way, I'm a nonchalant kid. I'm minding my own business, got this big bum, which my mom blessed me with. And I hated it so much then. And I'm completely, utterly shaped like my mom, which is something that I hated in the beginning.
Sure. But
But I realized it was a blessing and a curse at the same time as I grew older. And I leaned in on the blessing a bit more. I'd walk up the street and people would question me, would question my existence. And I couldn't put my finger on it, I couldn't put my finger on why was I alive if then I was not meant to. Because, guys in the hood will be very brutal to say, one, you're usistabane, and or the worst for me was being called a hermaphrodite, and
at that time, did you know
what that was?
Yes.
So there was a popular term called idalase. Idalase is basically having both organs. And I would walk up the street in Noto and I'm like, do I have both? And I'd get home and I'd inspect myself, And remember, I always say I'm so careful around the things I say around kids because kids listen.
Yeah.
Kids take things on and kids start believing. If you are not as mentally strong as I was and feeding my mindset with positivity and good things around me, and also coming from a home where I think my mom did a great job to sort of say, you're the author of your life.
Sure.
As much as she's a black teacher parent who is like any other black teacher parent. But when I came home crying and saying, the boys up the road said this and this, and she'd be like, it's because you're beautiful, you look like your mom, don't you want to look like your mom? And I'd be like, okay mom, it makes sense. And then I'm crying and then saying, okay, it makes sense, because I look like my mom. What led me to writing that, and I go around and around because I want people to get the story, is I thought I was this, I was being told I'm this, and something in me instantly clicked at such a young age. And it's something I always pray for young, confused kids or young people who just don't know who they are in terms of identity and authenticity, to find within themselves. I simply said, Mnoto, from that age, no one's going to tell me who I am. I'm going to tell the world who I am.
Yes.
And I'm going to walk out and I am going to, and true to form, that's how I've managed my life throughout. That's how I've walked into every boardroom. That's how I've walked into every interview. That's how I've walked into every life situation, was I walk in, you're a bit apprehensive about who I am at face value, but I'm going to let you in on what the colors of me are all about.
And my last question on just the subject of being gay.
There's more to me.
Yes, of course. And I want to move on from it, you know. But what's your view, and where this is coming from, let me just explain, is we had a diversity and inclusion workshop, you know, which was really eye-opening, where people actually opened up and cried. It was quite intense and heavy as well, you know, but it was needed, especially for understanding. So on that note, what's your view on people that say, and I want to be educated, that's why I'm asking, that say they are born gay? Like it was in your DNA.
I think I was.
Okay.
I almost am certain I think I was. Because from a young age, I remember I told you this story before we actually recorded this. It was to say, I tried to pierce my ears. I'd play with dolls in secret. I was almost always leaning towards the more female energy, and that's me. And even in my family, so more, you can see I've got my grandmother's picture there. She was my idol, you know, and from there, then she raised my mother and then my aunt. And then with my uncles, I struggled a bit, you know, the male energy for me, the male Xhosa energy, I found it very dominant for me, which I know I possess some of those traits, but I found it very dominant and single-minded in their approach. And those were one of the reasons why I left home. I felt the world was bigger. It was bigger than the Xhosa nation. It was because I watched a lot of TV. By the time I got to Joburg, I could speak Sotho, Tswana, I would mix it up. But I was like, you know, like I was that child, was curious about everything else. So almost certainly, I think it's something that a lot of people can fight with this.
Sure.
I honestly think it's not something you stumble onto. And when you stumble onto it, you can tell. I've been able to tell in relationships I've been if someone is there because they're there for the money or they're there for a lifestyle. For me, authenticity is one of the biggest things. So I pick up, and I always say, people always think I'm crazy, but I pick up on energies. So if someone is acting gay, for example, I know. If someone is acting gay because it's an attractive lifestyle to lead, I know. But there's also people who are just born gay. And almost certainly what I've tried to do as an older person within the space, which I never got when I was younger. So being born gay is something almost, almost certainly I think you are.
Okay.
But you spend almost all your life, for some people, suppressing it, and it shows up in other parts of your life. You will be in a marriage and angry as F. You will be in a boardroom and angry AF. You will be in a church sermon and angry as AF because you have not confronted the truest parts of yourself and said, here I am, I'm vulnerable, I don't know what's going on with me. Not many people have done it like I did. And I'm not saying I'm the blueprint of it, but I think to confront your darkness is very important, or your perceived darkness, because that's what society wants you to think. But to confront the truest parts of yourself that make up you, whether you're gay, whether you're a lesbian, whether you're a serial killer, whether you're a murderer, if you confront the truest parts of you that make up your full composite self and you shine them out into the light, then you become more okay with your way around the world.
I'm ready to rock and roll. Welcome back from the break. Yes, so Sikelela, once again, thank you for sharing a piece of yourself. You know, it takes a lot to do that.
You don't have to ask me twice.
Yeah, I've realized that. So let's just rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
What did Sikelela want to be before society and pressures and bursaries and everything being thrown at you to say go this route? What did you want to be?
I think I wanted to speak. I wanted to impact, and I wanted to be influential.
This is in your teen years. You already knew this. Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to be on a raised stage.
Sure.
Because I realized that the world had a lot of learning to do, had a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I watched a lot of TV. So I was actually watching your TV sometime during the week, and I haven't watched that in years.
It's still around.
It is, because sometimes I'm at home in the afternoon. So I watched your TV and I was like, I really wanted to be a presenter one day. Remember we spoke about this as well. And I used to stand in front of a TV and, may his soul rest in peace. Akumzi Jezile's days where you stand in front of a TV and you mimicking Omandisa from your TV. So I almost knew I wanted a life of a level of speaking on a raised stage, but would that bring money had always been the question.
Sure.
And I think, Mnoto, that's the future we need to groom. That's the entrepreneurship mindset we need to get into kids, to not see their lives as one-dimensional, as being a career that just pays the bills.
So on that, and you beat me to my own question.
I always do.
No.
I'm kidding.
So now, Sikelela, what's your opinion? Like, how do we balance this, right? Because on the one hand, yes, you have your passions and you want to be on your TV. You don't want your life to be one-dimensional, as you're saying, But let's also bring it back home and be realistic, yeah. Especially, again, I hate speaking for a lot of people, but the fact of the matter is,
you gotta survive.
And I mean, I don't want to speak about black tax, but there is black tax because that's just another episode in itself.
Yeah.
You have to. So let me speak for why I would take a bursary.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate enough to get a bursary, but I was also fortunate enough to kind of choose what I want to go into. But look, at home they don't have money to send me to school, and there's this bursary opportunity to go study engineering, which would give me a job prospect. And then I can actually bring back money. So in a way, I might rationalize to say, look, let me delay my dream for a bit, even if it's 10 years. I mean, I'm 18, 28, maybe 30. Then I can start to pursue what I wanted, because now I'm financially stable. I've built, there's many factors to it, it's very complex, So sometimes I'm very careful not to judge people that go the chartered accountancy route.
Correct.
Or go the engineering route, even though they don't love it, because as you say, the odds are stacked against you. So how do you balance that? Let me rather say that. Okay, cool. How do you not forget your dream and your purpose whilst taking care of home?
Cool. Lovely question. I'm 31. I'm still trying to figure that out. Right?
Yeah.
But I think I'm well on my way. The reason I say I'm well on my way is you're thinking like a young, introspective man now, which we all are, which is good. Because you have to balance your pros and your cons. What is my reality? And what's the reality I want to create for myself?
Sure.
Right? And that's been one thing I've always used as my guiding. I always say to people, I have a decision-making matrix in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I would have for surely gotten into the chartered accountancy had I gotten the marks to begin with.
So that's why you studied marketing.
God was just trying to redirect me.
Sure,
so if I had gotten the marks, the bursary, if I had gotten the way in, I probably would have done it. And I think in hindsight, I'm not by any form trying to say to anyone, don't balance the two, because black tax is a reality.
Mm-hmm.
What I was also very lucky on was my black tax. I was adamant that I wouldn't be a a victim of it, because I said, this is how much I can give you guys, and it's for this period of time. But also my mom never expected it. One thing I was very lucky with was a parent who wanted me. I think what I also did for my mom quite quickly was I finished school quite early. So at 17 I was done with matric. Within 3 years, 4 years max, I was done with my diploma and I was starting to work, being absorbed into one of the biggest organizations at the time, which was SAP Miller. So for me, I knew I had to do things quite quickly and quite fast. So to balance the two is, look, sometimes your pros outweigh your cons. You have to balance the equation and see, what is the thing that I have to do in the current, so my short term, to future-proof my long term. If that means studying chartered accountancy to build your dream for the future, because the one thing about education, almost certainly I'll say to anybody listening, young or old, is it gives you the freedom to choose.
Sure.
So education gives you the freedom to be able to say, I'm at a point now where I've chosen a new direction for myself, which is still to be announced, and I'm keeping it to myself and I'm working on it, But through that education, through that hard work, through that grafting in my 20s, it's warranted me or given me the ability to choose. So if I were to say your pros and your cons are to choose education, you've got the marks, you can get in, you can do it. Don't fight the system. Get that education. Then turn that education into your dream at a later stage. There'll always be time. I honestly think there'll always be time. Because if you fight on it in the beginning, unless your world allows you, but if you fight for your dream in the beginning to every hell-bent stage, that is then how you are going to end up pushing your back against the wall all the time. But if that dream is also loud enough within you and you think you can do it, conviction is always the biggest thing for me. It's like, are you convinced that you can move forward and do this, even if the odds are stacked up against you? Or can you use your building blocks to get to what you need to get to?
So just the next session, I just want us to speak on that, and it brings us to the topic actually of this episode, which is bringing your authentic self in every space. Right?
Correct.
So, which is the passion points of yours.
Yeah.
Right? So I'd like us to let's unpack that. Let's unpack bringing your authentic self in every space, and look, I know when you're telling me your history and your childhood, that was starting to be revealed. So, I mean, we don't have to focus on your childhood.
How did we build up to this? Yeah.
So let's unpack bringing your authentic self in every space,
cool.
Especially in the work environment. And what I'd like for you to do as well is give us one or two stories, of when you had to bring your authentic self in this particular space.
Cool. So, I don't know how much I can mention about the companies and stuff, but I'll be very cognizant of what I say. However, it will be my truth. And we can
so like in terms of, look, we're not here to badmouth these companies, but let's speak about also
constructive.
Yeah, and also let's speak the truth as well, in terms of as we're all human beings, and human beings are running these companies, we are learning and we're gonna adjust.
Cool.
So, for example,
and I'm comfortable with that truth. So, got into this role, Noto, where I was a learnership at SAP Miller at the time, which transitioned into a sales role, right? Authentic self within that space was very challenged in that space because, one, I was softer than the other guys. I was going into townships, which I have grown up in, and doing sales rep work, right? And I liked it, had a lot of money. It was also like a job but it also played with human dignity to a certain degree. Being the reflective person that I am, I couldn't bear going into a tavern every day to sell alcohol, which sold itself.
Sure.
But I'm selling it to a community I'm trying to uplift.
Okay.
It became such a thing for me because one outlet I walked into this other day, there was a dad who was there and was in a suit and had said he's going to work. But SAB also had great initiatives where they were building up communities and stuff. So for me, from a personal front, one of the other things was authentic self again came into play. There was a sort of a boys club within that environment that I couldn't fit into. And I felt judged for not being either the guy or the girl, but just the in between then again. And I quickly moved out of that environment. One thing I learned from that was you have the choice ultimately to stay or go in an environment that doesn't serve you. So authentic self within that space, great job, great experience, would do it all over again. But what I learned from that particular role was, and I also knew I didn't want to be a sales rep, and I didn't want to be a sales manager. That was not my career progression, I always knew I wanted to do brand.
Sure.
Yeah. So I always affiliated myself to that. If there were trade visits of brand managers or marketing managers, I would affiliate myself. I'd place myself in the world that I wanted to be in.
Sikelela, after 5 years at SAB, decides to leave the company, and we pick up the conversation right now.
On the day I left SAB, Unilever called, but it was for a sales kind of role. I said to them, look, I just left SAB today. This is not what I want. And I sold myself to this lady. And it was a lady from a recruitment agency. It's like, wow, okay. There's this project that's coming to South Africa that Unilever is recruiting for. They were bringing distributors into South Africa. They were a distributor model into South Africa, and they wanted these people to come set it up and replicate a model that was being done in Asia. And I got into that. I was interviewed into that, I got into that, and the rest was history. Had a phenomenal 5 years at Unilever across, a sales role, but managing big territories and managing, big teams as well, managing people who are my mom's age. I remember I had to call my mom this other day. I'm like, Mom, I think I just had to reprimand or fire someone who's your age. And my mom is like, do it ultimately with respect. Ultimately, you are a leader within that role. I think I was 25 at the time or whatever. And I was just in this role, and I thought I was the head bee in charge, But also have always been morally, inclined to how I was raised and respecting my elders and all of that, but also being firm and assertive as I built myself in the career front. So spent about 5 years at Unilever, moved from a sales kind of big role, managing distributors, setting up territories, benchmarking models to the Philippines, coming back to South Africa and replicating that. Big role, big responsibility. Then I moved to brand, and I was like, I want to be in brand now.
Sure.
And 4 months after expressing that, I was pulled to a brand role where I worked on hair. I don't have hair, but I worked on hair. And then I worked on face care, I worked on, personal care portfolio. And then I moved from there. After the whole 5 years of a great career there, I went to Pepsico for about 3 years. So in my leadership and so I've been led as much as I've been leading as well. So because I've led and been leading and been in the position of growing my skill set, I've watched or mimicked some people's styles. So I had great leaders in my Unilever career, for example, who gave me the autonomy to be able to make decisions, to be myself, to also be Sikelela.
Sure.
And I was hired on the basis of being Sikelela. So very important for me in any environment, I don't leave my full self out. Whether I flick my non-existent hair in a meeting, or I roll my eyes back, or I speak with such rapport, whatever. I want to come into a room and be fully myself. And that's very important in any environment that I go into. Whether be it a relationship, whether be it a friendship, whether be it a work situation. So having been led and leading, I've always made sure that's the central ethos of what people are in my space and what I am in their space. So it is making sure that you bring your full self in, because the moment you've left some parts of yourself outside, whether good or bad, we're going to learn about them. We're going to learn about them because they're going to show up. They're going to show up when I've given you a bad performance review or I receive a bad performance review. I'm going to, your rage is going to show up. So, very colorful person. You can see what I'm wearing, polka dots of color. And I walk into every room with that. But also the bad thing about me is my emotion is on my face.
Sure.
So I wear it. If I'm angry at an environment, you will see it. And I'll speak and I will not be silenced and I will not be, we live in that day and age where fear is not within us, but more courage is within our age group. So how I have been in the workplace have stayed hell-bent in being uSikelela, raised from Butterworth, knows who he is, a child, a brother, a cousin, a grandchild. But then again, when he comes into this environment, he does the job that needs to be done. You said something peculiar before we started. You're like, you have prepared for this and you're so diligent and whatever. I said, it's because everything that I want to do, I want to leave a little touch of me that is, that says Sikelela was here. Authentically so. And true to form, even with people I've met in my life, friends we've met at Unilever, you yourself included, friends that I've kept in touch with. It's people where we've had an impact in each other's life in different ways. And that's really been the life I've been trying to lead. That's what authenticity is for me.
So, Sikelela, welcome back, and welcome back to the listeners as well. So, this is now sort of becoming a tradition on my show, where I bumped into you, and I'd love to get to know you further.
Yeah,
you can tell how my voice and my tone has just dropped. Because we're about to get
not
serious.
Yeah, but anyways.
So this next section is however you wanna title it. We're gonna open up the hood, see what's inside. Otherwise known as 36 questions. I won't go through all 36 questions.
I heard this in the other ones. I was like,
also otherwise
hell no,
known as deep questions that nobody really wants to answer because they're afraid of the truth.
Cool.
But yeah, let's get into it.
Let's dive in.
Sikelela, what's your greatest accomplishment?
Minoto. I think earlier on in my life, I thought my greatest accomplishment was getting things. But actually, you're doing this at a very reflective time in my life. And I was saying to someone, I bought this house in 2013 and I had to move out 4 months later. At that time, I moved to Durban and had to come back. And I thought that was my greatest accomplishment. But I think my greatest accomplishment has to be a fuller life that I've worked towards, in terms of I don't worry as much as I used to. And it's because I've worked hard at like a good life. A good life, a good, solid, balanced life. And I'm in that space.
And that's, just to add on to that, I think it's very rare to get someone your age.
Yeah.
Again, when we just take the entire world, and everyone comes from different backgrounds, but at your age, to be so self-aware, and to have you have a great sense of yourself, as well. So at your age, I think it's great, and it's also rare because you find you actually find a lot of people that
go through to figure it out,
and sometimes figure it out. Not that it's too late, but much later on in life. We get into careers that we don't really want to, and then at 60, you're like,
what was I doing my entire life?
Courageous, And that's just on that point. There's quick story. There's this person, I think it's BJ Miller. You can research him as well. But he's basically, forgot the term they use, but he basically guides people into death, right?
So moments leading up to
moments
death,
leading up to death, you know. And there was also another, what is it called? Palliative care. That's the word. There was also a lady, a nurse. Oh, it's not BJ Miller, but he does the same thing. But there was a nurse who interviewed over 1,000 people just before they died, and she asked them, you know, the top regrets. And
were those people meeting death? So they were.
Yes, they're going into death. So now, I mean, that's quite a unique position to be in, you know, because once you can learn from how people live their lives and the biggest regrets, you can almost come back to today and say, how do I change that so I do not have those regrets, you know? And where I'm going with this is the number one regret amongst most people was to say, I wish I had the courage to live the life I wanted to live.
Yeah.
Not to be guided by my parents or friends or society.
What the world wants from
Yes, it's for me, that's why I'm even doing this podcast. I'm doing things that I've always wanted to do, whether I fail or not. But it's a driving force to say, I wish I had the courage to live the life I wanted to live.
I love it. I think you put the words right into my mouth. It's the courage to live. One thing my greatest accomplishment is to live the life, to be courageous enough to live the life that I'm living now. I do think it takes quite a bit of courage to live a life where you are questioned from a young age. You still are hell-bent on making sure that people understand you for who you are. And even your own family sometimes wants to make you a narrative of what they wanted you to be.
And I guess you get to that stage and you're like, you know, you're knocking on death's door. You're like, why was I so afraid?
Yeah.
Because now
I'm meeting the untimely, inevitable eventuality of everybody else.
Yes. So just quickly on that. I don't want to go too much on a tangent.
36 questions, we only did 2.
No, we're not going to do 36. there's just we'll do a handful actually.
Yeah.
Why do you think people don't like to talk about death?
It's scary. I'll tell you, my mom got sick 2 years ago. And like I said to you, it's not something we speak about quite often. And when I saw her on her supposed deathbed, she's still alive to this day. And she was a fighter, you know, she fought for her life. And when I first found out she was ill, I planned the funeral. I saw her, and it was quite an intense illness, and I was like, she's going. And I'm not ready, God, but it's your will, let your will be done. And I reconfronted God at that time because I was bargaining with God, and I was like, God, you've given me everything I've ever wanted in my life. The good, the bad. You can't take her away now. And actually, Mnoto, a year after that, I confronted that. I had this fear of losing my mother. I held on to her on earth so much. But what if her time now had come for her to meet her maker, to transition to her other side, to transition to the next role of her life? Because just by virtue of giving birth to me doesn't mean I hold on to her and I own her. Similarly to how her as a parent, she does not own me, and I've become this person who can make his adult decisions. I spoke about it in the beginning, being a parent to a young child, being a parent to an older child.
So, on that note, you know, because death can be very morbid as well.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next question.
Yeah.
It's a 2-part question, yeah?
Yeah.
I'll ask the first part now. What's your most treasured memory
of my life? Yo. It's like, it's not one memory. Oh, I remember it. It just came to me. I think it was the first day I drove a car.
Okay.
The first day, it was a Ford Icon in the career when I got my first car at SAB, and we went to go fetch these cars. We had been waiting to get these cars. You had your license for like 6 months. You had never gotten behind a steering wheel after that. So we went to go fetch these cars, and I got into the middle of traffic in Johannesburg, peak period, 5 o'clock. And it was me, that car, and my carriage. The car would stop, I don't remember how to balance. And I had promised a friend of mine, Usamkele, that I'm going to come pick you up. He was playing basketball in Rosebank. But I'm going to come pick you up, my friend, when I get the car, staying at his place at the time. I drove to Rosebank from the East Rand in peak traffic to go fetch him in Rosebank, and then we went home. I had not driven a car in 6 months from the time when I got the license. So the treasured memory in that for me was, I'll never forget. The song I played in the car was Beyonce Smash Into You. I wanna run, smash into you.
That's not a song to be playing in peak traffic and not know how to.
And the song would be, I'm willing to run it. And I'm just like, we are doing this thing. We are, and this car's not going to get into an accident. I'm not calling anyone to come fetch me. Courage be your guide. And I made it. And I drove to and from and whatever. And for me, the car would stall, the car would do crazy things. But that ultimate moment reminded me that whatever you put your mind to, just do it, yo.
You can answer this if you want to. Yeah. I don't understand if you don't want to answer.
Ooh.
It's. Look, I'm under the hood now, but now we going into even
the disclaimer
bolts as well that are hidden.
Okay.
And feel free to not answer as well, because I probably don't think I could answer this.
Ask Jesus, okay, the damn question.
It's not that deep. What's your most terrible memory?
Terrible. Oh, I remember. Grade 9. I got out of school. My aunt is parked outside and she says, your mom's been in a car accident. They got under a truck. My first question was, so I was, that was the worst memory. It's my worst memory actually, because for me, raised by this woman, she's our everything. And then they say, so my aunt, who's closest to my mom as well, is there to pick us up. So for me, I ultimately thought she had died. And it goes back to that fear of death. And we're in grade 9. And what we've always been scared of is death. Stop looking outside. So, worst memory was that ultimate moment before she said, no, she's still alive, when I thought she was dead. And I remember I was so overprotective of my mom, even my brother. I would be the person who'd be like, where is my mom? And my mom she had taken a lift to East London to go probably do something that had to do with us, because she didn't have a car at the time. And she gets into this accident. Apparently they got under a truck. Who survives under a truck? She got out with her arm broken or whatever. So I asked my aunt, is she still alive? And she said, yes. Where is she? And I said, where is she? She's like, she's at the hospital. I'm like, take me there and take me now. I ran to go pick up my brother at a salon, a family salon that he would wait for me at afterwards, because intermediate phase school would finish earlier than our grade. And I went, I remember running in and saying to my brother, come. And I pulled him and we got into my aunt's car. When I walked in and I saw my mom talking on a hospital bed, the relief I felt is nothing I can ever liken to anything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For sharing that.
Yeah.
It's, geez, wow.
Deep. People go through deep things, Mnoto.
Yeah, I know this. Sikelela, if you were to die this evening with no opportunity to communicate with anyone, what would you most regret not having told someone? And why haven't you told them yet?
I think I live my life from the inside out. I don't think there's anything I haven't told anyone that they need to know. But I'm just waiting for people to listen and answer. Like, if I'm in love with someone, they know.
How do they know? Do you tell them?
I've said it. I've said, I'm in love with you. And that's that. And then, if I am in a difficult situation with someone, they know. So I'm thinking about 2 different instances now. Those 2 people know how I feel. I don't feel like I'm harboring anything inside of me that's I would die with.
I really like that. And again, I guess it speaks to you being so reflective and also knowing,
introspective.
Yes, the sense, you have a good sense of yourself, you know.
Yeah.
It's Tim Ferriss, I think he said this, and he was like, he flies a lot, you know. He does speaking engagements, and also now I've been fortunate enough to fly a lot. But he always asks himself the question, when he gets onto a plane and if he had to crash, would he be happy if he died in that instant, you know? And of course, no one, I would assume no one really wants
meets death very happy,
die.
But yeah.
However, you know, will you be satisfied? And it's a question now I'll ask myself every time I go into a plane. Have I said everything I needed to say
say the things Oprah was actually saying about her mom. Say the things you want to say to people while they're still there, and you leave it with them. I said something this morning. I was like, sometimes when I'm arguing with people, I let them sit. So if we're in a commotion, me and you, I'm not always obsessed with being right, but I sometimes keep quiet, not to give you the upper hand, but I want you to sit on the weight of your words.
And
like, just sit on it. If you say to me, Sikelela, you are fat, or I hate you, I keep quiet. I never try and defend those things, because I want you to sit on the weight of your words. What was the intention behind it? So for me, I don't think I live such an open life where if I feel a certain way about something, I'm so vocal about it. Even at work, they know this about me. If I'm sitting on it, I'm still thinking about how to package it and make sure it comes out right. But if I were to die tonight, I've said, I've spoken, I've touched, I've done everything I've needed to do at this moment. I don't feel like I'm sitting on anything. And I think that's why my soul is so clear with myself every day. Because even when I'm harboring something, it physically manifests with me. I can feel sick because I had an argument with someone in my life, and me and him have fought, and I haven't said all the things that I want to say to him. And then I'll act that out. But until the time when I've said it, I release it and I let it be. So tonight, I die at peace.
So, on a more lighter
Please.
Yeah, look, second to last question. What's your definition of greatness?
I think the definition of greatness is saying, I tried it all. I failed sometimes, I succeeded sometimes, but I had a damn good time.
I love how you're thinking about the end in mind at the end of the day, to say, yes, I was great because of X, Y, Z. Okay.
I was great because I tried, I failed, I won. But I also had a good time doing it.
Which is, I think, personally, the most important thing. You know my character, but...
Cray.
No.
Yeah.
It's about having fun. We're on this... I honestly see...
We forget that.
We're on this roller coaster of life. Hold on.
We're all not coming out of this thing alive.
So, that's the truth. And Jim Rohn says that.
You're such a reader. I know all these things, but I don't know who wrote them.
So Jim Rohn is...
We're not... Honestly, I always say this.
He says this.
I say this to people who are in my life now.
Thank you for reminding me on that, because you see now, you got me so excited. He says this in terms of, in life, it's all risky. Everything is risky. And I'll tell you how risky it is. You're not going to come out alive. That's where you said...
Hello. It is like people who have an issue with money. Can I tell you, I have cultivated such a healthy relationship with money. Whether I have it in abundance, because I have had it in abundance, whether I do not have it, and it's a lack thereof, because I've lived in that situation. Both situations, I live my best life, because I'm just like, whether I go to New York and I have 20,000 or I had 0 when I came back. But what did I do? I effed ish up and I had fun. And on to the next one, because we're not coming out of this thing alive. I always say, this is a bad principle, but I always say, yes, I'm saving up for retirement, but I also want to live it up here in the here and now. Because who in that retirement stage? I always say, my family always says I'm crazy. I'm always like, I don't think I'm making it past 60. Just looking at my family's life expectancy, 70 might be great. So I'm going to really make the most of it now. Honestly, my 30s, my 40s, my 50s. I want to give myself the best life possible. The best life for people around me, my family, my friends, kids, if I ultimately have them, you know? And we're not coming out of this thing alive. So the caution is great, but live a little.
And on that note, Sikelela, I'm very conscious of time. And I said I'm going to come back to this. You said that the world needs you. So on that note, that brings this very insightful episode to an end.
So sad, so great.
There's obviously, we've spoken before, there's many topics and many streets we go down. And thank you for taking the time to just share a part of yourself today. And I mean, as this platform grows, I'd love for you to come back to share more insights. You know,
cool. There's more. There's so much more.
There's so much more. But again, the intention is just to start having these honest conversations and to remind ourselves that we are human. With you mentioned darkness very early on in the episode. You know,
you do listen.
We do have darkness within us.
I hope your wife is listening.
That we that we need to confront it. Again, you see, I can go on a tangent. I mean, I recently read The Subtle Art of Not Giving Yes, and he speaks about that, you know. So on that note, thank you very much, and I hope you continue to light up the dark.
Oh wow, thank you.